So one of the biggest talking points, one of the biggest questions from Alabama fans this offseason has been the development of quarterback Jalen Milroe. Now, this is something we've had extensive conversations about, and the only reason I haven't talked about it in quite some time is because I've said my piece. I've let my feelings be known, and I've told y'all exactly what I expect Jalen Milroe to do this upcoming season. But this week at SEC Media Days, some unexpected voices gave their opinion on Alabama's quarterback, and the results, well, they might shock you. But before we can jump into this, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe Jalen Milroe will take a massive jump in his production this upcoming season? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as we do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And we are so close to 22,000 subscribers. I would love to have you a part of this awesome community. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions seem small, but truly they are massive to content creators such as myself. But having said all of that, let's jump right into this. And before I turn your attention to some unexpected voices, I want to let my opinion be known once again for someone who may be new to the channel, for someone who maybe didn't catch my takes on Jalen Milroe. Personally, I think Jalen Milroe is set to have an incredible 2024 season, and the reasons are quite simple. First and foremost, he is no longer a first-year starter. Whenever you're at the job site and now you're in year 2, you have a greater understanding of the things you need to do to be successful. You have a ton of lessons under you. You've learned what works. You've learned what the little things in practice are now meant for, because it's one thing to practice them. It's another thing to put the practice into play. It's another thing to actually utilize those things. And Jalen Milroe got the ability to do that last season and even went to the college football playoffs. Won an SEC championship game. But the second reason, and the reason why I'm even more excited and bullish on Jalen Milroe's development, is the guys in the offensive room now. You're talking about Nick Sheridan. You're talking about Coach Kalen DeBoer. You're talking about, heck, the tight end coach, Brian Ellis. Coach Shepard at wide receiver coach. All of these guys are offensive masterminds. And in my opinion, there's no question that the offensive side of the ball is much improved over what they had last season. Heck, even Coach Cap was an offensive coordinator at one point and put together some really great offenses. The amount of knowledge you have in that room is quite frankly staggering. And the reason why I gave you all of those names is because collectively, their offensive knowledge is off the charts. We talk about Coach Shepard. He was the passing game coordinator at Washington. We already know he's an incredible wide receiver coach. The guy understands high-level offense. Kalen DeBoer needs no introduction. Nick Sheridan's the guy that has worked with a Michael Penix, that has consistently been a great quarterback developer, played quarterback himself, and Kalen DeBoer turned to him whenever he needed a new offensive coordinator, meaning he has supreme faith in what Sheridan can do. I even give you a Brian Ellis, someone who is the tight end coach at Alabama, but this was the guy who was the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach at Western Kentucky, and they were setting records with Bailey Zappi. I mean, his ability to be an offensive mastermind should not go overlooked. And like I said with Coach Cap, he even has experience calling offenses. So the offensive masterminds you have in the room, it's incredible now. It's no question an upgrade over what Alabama had last season. And I don't mean to blame Tommy Rees. I've said this multiple times. Tommy Rees is a young coach. Tommy Rees is only 4 years older than myself and had never worked with a quarterback like Jalen Milroe. He was learning on the job not only how to develop a Jalen Milroe, but he didn't even get to bring his own offense to Alabama. He got there and was told, hey, you're going to use our offense. So it was a lot of learning on the fly for Tommy Rees, but whenever we look at this staff, they're coming with their own ideas. They're coming with their own offense, and that's going to be a massive help to Jalen Milroe because they don't have to learn the offensive system. They get to teach the offensive system, and that, in my opinion, is a massive difference. Let me give you a quick analogy before we turn to the unexpected voices that gave their opinions on Jalen Milroe. But it's like Milroe was in the kitchen last year, and you threw some ingredients his way. You didn't give him a recipe book, and you told him, hey, you'll get a little bit of help, but you got to figure a lot of this out on your own because the chef behind you, well, he's learning how to cook this style of food as well. So yes, while he has been a chef, he is also learning this new culinary type. He's cooked Italian food his whole life. Now he's not cooking Italian food. Now he's cooking something else. Now, we juxtapose that with Alabama, what they currently have, where now you have Jalen Milroe, who has been in a kitchen before. He has cooked before in a kitchen. Now you give him all the ingredients he needs. You give him the cookbook, and you give him a world-renowned chef and a world-renowned teacher of the culinary arts behind him, and you say, have at it. That, to me, is the difference between year one and year two for Jalen Milroe, and that's why I think that there will be such a palpable difference in what we see from Alabama's quarterback, and I am really excited. But that excitement doesn't end with me. In fact, when we look at SEC Media Days, that excitement was echoed by some unexpected voices Alabama fans may not have expected to sing the praise of Jalen Milroe. We're going to start with another SEC quarterback in Jackson Dart, where he said, and this is going to be somewhat of a direct quote, I may miss a part of it as I'm in the process of talking, but you get the point. Jackson Dart states he is a monster. He is definitely a guy who passes the eye test from a physical ability approach, but he's also a very genuine dude. He has been a stud, and he is going to be a baller this year for Alabama for sure. This is a guy that's played against Jalen Milroe. This is a guy that knows Jalen Milroe. And there's two parts to this. First and foremost, there's the physical attributes part. I don't think there's a soul out there that questions Jalen Milroe from a physical attribute approach. But the one that I really want to unpack very briefly is genuine. Because when we're talking about a guy making a jump in their actual game, some people out there may hear, oh, he's a genuine dude, that's awesome, but what does that have to do with him making a jump in terms of being a quarterback? I'm going to tell you exactly what it means. Genuine people have the ability to self-reflect, and self-reflection is huge. You'll notice whenever Kalen DeBoer got hired, myself and so many others, one of the favorite things he said that I pointed out is when he came and said, hey, I know how important recruiting is, and you're right, I don't know what recruiting in the SEC looks like, but I'm going to surround myself with people that do, and I'm going to learn how. The reason why that to me was such a compelling point that he said is you cannot improve if you don't know what you need to improve on. That's one of the most basic things there is in human nature. If you think you know it all, you have no room for growth. But if you acknowledge, I don't understand that, I don't know that, you have inherently opened yourself up to learn and get better. That's exactly what Jalen Milroe is going to do this year, and that's exactly what Kalen DeBoer did whenever he took over the job at Alabama. Now, wherever you look, Alabama either has the number 1 recruiting class in the nation per On3, they have the number 2 recruiting class in the nation per 24/7 Sports, but important to note, they have the highest average player ranking in the nation. So, awesome stuff on the trail. So that's why I think the genuine bit is very intriguing, it's very compelling, and I give that to you. But we move forward to another really unexpected source, a guy who covers LSU, a guy who has riled up Alabama fans in the past, but listen, whether you agree with his takes or not, one thing I very much well respect about this individual is he attempts to talk without the bias there, where even if he's riling you up, he does a good job of talking football, and that's T-Bob Hebert, because he said there's not a top-flight quarterback with more poise to take a massive jump than Jalen Milroe. And he echoed a lot of the sentiments I did at the beginning of this video, that, hey, look, at the time we thought Tommy Rees was a good hire. Turned out it wasn't the hire we expected, but now you give him Nick Sheridan. Now you give him Kalen DeBoer. These guys have been proven to be quarterback gurus, and now he has another year in the system. He's got all the physical ability in the world. The guy's going to take a massive jump. He even gave a great analogy at the end of his spiel, wherever he was saying it's like the episode of Family Guy. Wherever they go to the timeshare convention, at the end of it, they're presented with two options, Peter and Lois. You can have a boat, or you can have this mystery box. And I thought that was such an apt analogy for the situation, as Hebert was describing whether or not Alabama fans should want a quarterback competition. I thought the analogy was perfect. So you have unexpected voices that don't even claim to be Alabama fans, saying, hey, don't overlook that guy. He's now in a better kitchen. He now understands how to cook. He now has the ingredients, he now has the facilities, and by the way, he's got world-renowned teachers behind him as well. world-renowned chefs behind him as well. That's all compelling. So you can doubt Jalen Milroe, but do so at your own expense. Do so sparingly. Because I think he has a point to prove, as I think this Alabama team has a point to prove, and that, to me, makes them dangerous. The last voice we'll talk about is Nick Saban, where he said, hey, Jalen Milroe is a quarterback that defenses have to adjust for. That, in my opinion, is something that rings true and something we will see. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're expecting with Jalen Milroe and what he's going to be able to do this upcoming season. That's it. See ya.